What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Blockchain Bros, episode number 10. And when we hit a number like number 10, should we do something special? Is this where we're supposed to give out a t-shirt or something?
Well, we've got Bitcoin and Ethereum t-shirts from your part, so
yeah, that's true. I can get you guys a big question. So today we got like something of a different guest. This isn't like directly related to cryptocurrency, Bitcoin or anything, but it's just basically online business. And you guys know I'm big on guys like getting their money right. And my man Cyrus, I'd like to introduce him. Cyrus, welcome.
Hello.
I've known Cyrus for quite some time, actually. It's been actually, dude, how time flies. It's got to be about, what, 7 years now? 6, 7 years?
About 5 years, 2016.
I was
2017, yeah.
Okay, so about 5 years. Half a decade, man. That's still a minute, though. You know, we met when I was in London, when I was living in London. Good dude. Known him for like a minute. Been in various different groups and whatnot, you know, with the various different topics and whatnot. But one thing that's always stood true is my man Cyrus has always gotten his money right. You know, he's educated man, been to school. You want to? Do you mind me mentioning what you studied? Or
I did my graduate degree in law at Stanford University, and I was a lawyer for about 4 years. My last job was at eBay, and working there, and worked at Huawei before that as a lawyer. Before Huawei became more of a became more of a company always in the news. No one really knew Huawei then, but now we kind of export and import caviar from Iran, mainly to the EU, and it's good fun. It's very different to a solely digital business. It has some advantages and disadvantages, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, indeed. Absolutely. And, you know, that's something I'm always interested in, digital business. I mean, you know, anyway, I'm always interested in that. So anyway, known him for a minute, always had his money right, you know, alhamdulillah, that's a big thing. You know, I think that's important for a man, you know, in the 21st century. I think it's always been a thing, but more than ever in the age of the cancel culture, you know. Mm-hmm. And I think it's to some degree or another, all of us on this panel have experienced some form of online difficulty, for lack of a better term. You know,
even if you try to remain neutral, there's always some internet mob which will find something to bust your balls, like they say. So I've had my fair share of mobs already.
And so, given this, when we're talking about online business and whatnot, and how Cyrus has made his money online, and some of the methods, you know, we're not going to cover all of his businesses, but how the crypto sphere can actually make you uncancelable, and that's a beautiful thing of blockchain, my people.
I like it when you put it that way, because indeed, unblockable.
It's beautiful.
Love it.
It's a technology that basically, you know, that regressive left who likes to cancel us and cancel the world, and people who have independent thought, you know, and exercise free speech, you know, it makes us uncontrollable. It makes us powerful. I don't know what else to call it.
In a certain sense, I dare say blockchain is very democratic because it's a majority vote. And when the majority vote says it stays on the blockchain, it stays available, well, it will stay, and there's not a single power or minority which will try to change it. Yeah. So if I say Google sucks on the blockchain, good luck, Google, to try to erase it. Impossible.
Yeah.
And I know this was going to be uploaded somewhere on Libri TV.
Indeed.
That's blockchain. So these words are officially on the blockchain.
Permanent forever. So Cyrus, you have your business, Caspian Monarch, right?
Yeah.
You want to go in on that? What that is? What you do?
Sure. So Iran is famous for its caviar. Two countries are really famous for its caviar: Russia and Iran. During Soviet times, it was really just Russia and Iran. And since about 98, Iran. Sorry, I should say 1990. Iran started dominating the market because around 1990 in Russia was the collapse of the Soviet Union, 1991, and there was a lot of poaching of caviar, of sturgeon there. and sturgeon is the fish that caviar comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And that led to a decline in quality. So buyers in Europe and the rest of the world, America and Canada, didn't come to trust Russian caviar as much, and they then went more towards Iran. And Iran really, in Europe, still everywhere I go, it's the most expensive caviar.
Mhm.
And that's kind of like a rundown of caviar. But how I got into it was a few years ago. I had a friend in Spain who likes going out to fine dining restaurants and all fancy places. And he said, "How much does caviar cost in Iran?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, man." And checked out the price in Iran, and it was about 20% of the price in the EU. And at the same time, it's a very regulated business because sturgeon is an endangered species, kind of like you can imagine rhino horns and stuff, or selling something from a dinosaur. It's regulated by what's called the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species.
Mhm.
And because I had a legal background, I really thought, wow, this puts me at an advantage because it's really complex, the law behind it. And most lawyers, and I've rarely met a lawyer who even understands it. So it's something you also have to learn from practical experience dealing with the different government authorities in the EU or whatever country, and also learning the law, the theory of the law.
Yeah.
And what else can I say? It's a slow moving business. So, unlike technology, unlike, say, the phone you have now, Craig,
Mhm.
caviar is going to taste like caviar the same in 5 years or 10 years. There might be very small differences, but it's kind of like an apple or a tomato. It tastes the same. It doesn't, the underlying kind of product doesn't change. So, as a result, the positive is that once you're in the market, you're kind of there for life. Someone cannot kick you out as quick because regulation is high. It takes, I should have said, 10 to 15 years to farm sturgeon. You can get the eggs from the caviar, from the sturgeon, which are called caviar. And from that, I'd say the downside is that you can't grow as fast. So
Scalability.
yeah, it doesn't scale as fast. It's something that accumulates over time. It keeps growing and growing and growing. But in any, I think, food business, you're not really going to grow 500% or 1,000% in a year.
But if you have access to like basically stock, let's say caviar stock, caviar egg
Yeah.
stock, and that's actually good for business to lack scalability, isn't it? I mean, because it creates an environment of scarcity that it's not artificial.
I mean, it can be good, but if I can draw an analogy, and I think everyone understands it instinctively,
Mhm.
think of the art world, where if in my case, if one very expensive piece of artwork falls off the back of a truck and I
Mhm.
find it, I'm not really going to recognize its value. Most people aren't going to recognize its value. Even if I take that that piece of art and put it in home, I don't necessarily have a buyer for it, because if you're, say, an average guy, say you're a what can I say? You're working in a supermarket, you're not really talking, you're not connected to people in the art world or high end. You know what I mean? The kind of social circle. You're not going to find a buyer, so it's not that liquid. This is caviar is similar because it's so expensive. You number one need to have access to the hotels, to the high-end restaurants, or to high-end private buyers, and
You need to
that takes some. Yeah, that takes some time. The private market is very large in caviar. It's very big, but it's not visible. So we, for example, get inquiries from certain Gulf Arab countries who, their assistants or call up, or their right hand men, and they say, this guy's got a £1 million budget for food every month, and and yeah,
Wow.
like that. But yeah, from your point, if you can kind of instinctively picture it, it's like the art world. So it takes some time to get your name known, but once you're there, you know everyone, and you can make a contact, at a hotel and get it sold, or at an airline or something like that.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
yeah, go ahead, Dimitri.
I sorry.
Never mind.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say something. So obviously, you and I, we talk on, the WhatsApp side of the game, and so I've kind of like I've seen like not a first person, but I've been like I kind of followed you on the entire trip because you told me you were going to get into it years ago, and it literally took you years to actually get in, and that's what I want to talk about. It's like basically once you getting in, talk about some of the difficulties of getting in, because I remember you were telling me about this, like how hard it is to actually get into that market. That like it's literally a market that you're squeezed out of.
Yeah, well, number one, it's quite a secretive market. It's not transparent. It's not, for example, like the market for, let me see, for headphones or what I'm looking at, mobile phones, where you can probably look up some customs database or Google something online, and then it says there were 10 million headphones imported into Greece last year. 30% came from China, 40% came from America. It's not that kind of market. It's kind of like the art world, if you can imagine what it's like. I mean, I've never worked in the art world, but it's probably roughly the same. One of the biggest issues is cost, expense. It's not a business that solely relies on brains. So, for example, in the case of crypto, I mean, I knew a guy from high school who dropped out years ago, and he had a home. He worked in construction or something, physical labor, and he sold his home years ago, and he put it all into crypto. And now this was 2012 when I remember when it went up, and he was really happy, and he kept most of his. So he really got in because he was one of those guys. He dropped out, but he was really into Star Trek and things like that in the future, and he had a wild imagination, and he won big time. But with food and a lot of stock, is that it's so expensive. Caviar 1 kilo in Europe is cheapest is really a few thousand kilograms of average quality, to up to if you're a brand, about 14,000 euros, 15,000 euros. So obviously, unless you come from kind of wealthy family or you're independently very wealthy, the expense of even buying it is quite a bit, because I started my first business years ago with $1,000. A lot of online businesses, all you need is your brain. Once you got your brain, your engineering, you can market, you're done with content or things like that. But with food or a lot of stock-based food, you have to first buy it. And the other risk is that you have to have people to sell it. So by way of example, I remember one import, we made one of our first imports, and no one really told us about a discretionary rule that the United Kingdom CITES office had. So that's the Convention on International Trade's office in UK. Every country has its own office, its own representative office, because it's an international law. So we imported about, I think, 40 or 50,000 euros worth of caviar, and then in this shipment, and that was one of our first shipments. And then the UK said, okay, well, because your legal entity has never imported caviar to the EU, we are now going to ask you some questions. And these questions were very scientific in nature, and we needed to take it back to our team in Iran to answer. And they weren't questions you could answer in a few days. It took like 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get it done. So what happened then was, our import was cleared. I mean, well, it was there, and they acknowledged it was there, but then we had to answer their questions before they could release it. So we had to go to Iran, get that answered. We even had to get the scientific authorities in Iran to answer some questions. And then we took it back to the UK authorities. They also took 1 month to review it. So it took about 2 months from the time our caviar was sent. And I should have said that caviar generally has a, expiry date of about 3 to 4 months. So our caviar was fresh when it came in. And then we were like, wow, we only have like a month, 6 weeks to sell this or do something with it.
So for like 2 months.
Yeah, so obviously that is that's really what I sense is one of the biggest issues I see with import physical goods, is that you have to, I mean, especially if it's food, expensive food, you have to buy it. It has an expiry date. So you're playing with that, and in our case, it's so regulated. It's like you're moving a missile or something, you know. But once you get the flip side is that once you've learned that, and we've really learned everything there, and you know we're in contact with different authorities. We know the practical realities on the ground. It's smooth sailing because we know, for example, that someone else can't just enter this business because they're smart. They're going to have money. They're going to have to invest time in to learn some of the practical sides.
Yeah. So it's a risky but safe business once you get in. You're saying basically, it's
That's
risky
what
to
I
get
say.
in, but
Yeah,
once you're in,
it's difficult to get in. It's difficult to get in, and but once you're in, you're in. And I've seen this in most kind of high-end foods like truffles. That's again similar. People who are in the business, or saffron as well from Iran. Once you're in the business, once you've got your market share, you've got it. You've got that contract, and you're going to have it for a long time.
Okay. So talking about starting capital, you say, you know, when a person comes from starting capital, they need to, you know, be independently wealthy or family wealthy. And one thing that has always been like, you know, like, yeah, this dude's doing it, is that you've always actually had some sort of business going on. Now you have some businesses we're not going to talk about, but in general, you have been in the online business world for quite some time, haven't you?
Correct. Yes, since about 2013, 2012.
It's been going well for you. You did some Amazon also, right? Some drop shipping?
Yeah, I did that for a while years ago. Kind of stopped it after I just felt Amazon, for me, it was I don't like operating on someone else's platform, on their turf to that extent. I mean, we all are kind of operating practically on Google's turf, but that's very different to Amazon, where they can compete with you, or someone can see how many orders you're getting, what's growing in demand, and then quickly start the same business
and undercut you.
Yeah, I wasn't too fond of that, and I'm more interested. I've been interested in creating like a brand, like we're trying to do now, and we're getting, you know, in media. I think next month we'll be in the National Geographic, so that's always.
This is caviar in National Geographic.
Yeah.
That's impressive, dude. So, you've always been doing some stuff, man. You was making like good money on that. Guys, I hate to be secret, but we said we weren't going to make this business. He has a good business, basically, and a good business model. And he is making. Are you okay with discussing numbers or figures? I mean,
yeah, sure. Go ahead, go.
What was it? I think you were talking about like. What was the amount? It was an impressive number.
That was years ago from the other business. Was a few $100K. I mean, not too much, but it was good because it was a very passive business. So I didn't have to.
Yeah, that's the point. It was passive.
Yeah.
You just. Once you got set up, it was just like cha-ching, baby.
Yeah, I mean, it would have never really grown much, but I think from my days as a lawyer, and because as a lawyer, I don't know how familiar you guys are, you charge per unit of time. So in a few minute increments, and you're so trained to sell your time. And I thought that was a terrible way to live and a terrible way to work.
Yeah.
And I saw lawyers, you look at lawyers who are 50 years old and they look like Peter Griffin or Homer Simpson, you know, their body, because they're sitting down. Sitting down on a desk all day, and you know they're having sugar, they're having Coca-Cola, having fat food, McDonald's, and all the time. And I looked at him and I go, man, I don't want to be like that. And I thought I got a way to develop a kind of a passive income of sorts, so I can leave and have a passive income, have that guarantee, but then have my mind free. Because when you're a lawyer, you can make good money, but your mind isn't free. You don't have the energy at the end of the day to start a new business, because it's quite a demanding business, demanding a profession. For example, I don't want to ramble too much, but if you're a criminal lawyer, I did an internship years ago in California. Violent crime and serious crime, it's quite emotionally demanding. And I don't think any regular person could come home an entire day, a week of just reading about murder and violent assault and blah, 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 and serial killings. That's one point. But when you've got your mind free, when you've got some passive income, your income is guaranteed, your lifestyle to a degree of safety, and you've got a free mind, so you can focus on all sorts of other things, on actual growth and opportunity, as opposed to working as a lawyer where you think, okay, what am I doing every 3-4 minutes? I have to bill someone. That wasn't for me. And yeah, so I got into this field, and it seems to be going well. And it's the other key benefit is that you're working with Iran. So you're working in a market which is closed off to the rest of the world, to most Westerners. Most Americans, bar a few exceptions, can't do business in Iran.
Yeah. What is this? Harshal says lawyers' work can low-key become like watchman job. Earning money by selling your time is bad.
I presume yeah.
Please go ahead. You're the guest, please.
Sure. I presume he's asking me this question. I think being a lawyer for a few years gives you a key kind of, can I say, benefit or advantage in communicating. You become more clear communicator, even though I'm not very clear, I'm not very articulate, but it makes you more assertive in dealing with some of the challenges that come with business. For example, a tax letter or registering a company or where to set up your company. And you kind of become more comfortable with conflict. And it's very different to say, for example, marketing, where marketing, you learn how to brand and sell, but some of the more scary sides of business, like the legal aspects, you're not so familiar with. And if you see a lawyer, especially when you're starting up, you don't want to pay a lawyer, 5,000 euros for a little bit of work. I'm lucky now because I can do it myself. Yeah, I mean, I would say in terms of his question, selling your time is a terrible way to live, a terrible way to make money.
I'd agree. And let me just cover that. I still do it. I work a regular job, but there's not a day I don't wake up and I don't look at the income from my crypto miners and I'm like, you know what, why am I doing this? It doesn't get in my way currently, but the day that working dollars for hours gets in my way, then for sure know that its days are limited. Because combined with my online income from Abuamerican and then my crypto miners, it just doesn't really make sense. Even now, it's just the only thing I'm worried about. And I'm just covering Harshal's point. I don't know what I would do at home all day. I mean, I got work to do, but not on the level that where I could spend the full 8 hours productive days at home working, whatever else. I definitely fall into some bad habits. So for me, it's not an excuse. It literally keeps me active and moving. But, I was talking about this in the last episode. It's I'm in that position of power at my job where it's my boss knows for a fact that if he gives me too much shit, I'll just walk out the door, whatever. So it puts you in a different position. It puts you in a different position in life when you don't have to work dollars for hours,
Yeah. In my case, I'm still stuck in some sort of 9 to 5. I haven't really got an online business. Well, I've got my cryptocurrency things that I'm doing. Now, admitted, I'm trying to work my way out of it. Now, knowing myself, like Abuamerican, I'll probably fall into bad habits. So I will search for something which keeps my mind occupied and also my focus retained. Now, 9 to 5, what I dare say it is there's a certain necessity to it for a majority of the people. By reason, if you want to build your empire, if I want to hype it up, you've got to start somewhere. And a 9 to 5 is something, which for a certain period in your life should occur. You will have to rely on it, but make sure that you make the necessary investments, the necessary steps, doing the necessary hard work to build. And I'm currently in that stage. I'm still stuck in a 9 to 5, but slowly building up my credit and my brand, I'm going to say so, gracious interests. By reason, out of interest, I'm in luck. The job I do concerns engineering in heating. It's something I like to do. But in reality, I also want out. I want to be my own boss and have a few companies of my own probably in the future. But if I'm going to be honest, probably admitted not immediately around cryptocurrency or even engineering. One of my to own some sort of farm, I'm going to say, where I work myself as big boss and as someone who plants the plants, etc. So yeah, I've still got the green thumb. It runs in the family.
Before I carry on, we don't want to get stuck on this point too much. But Harshal, another thing, selling your time for money, you have to look at your question. Is selling your time for money bad? How much money are you making that is worth the hours and minutes of your life?
That's an important point.
My life has a lot of value to it, and I can tell you this: the hours and minutes of my life are far more valuable than what my boss is paying me. Just that statement alone, my boss. You know what I mean? I can walk out anytime I want, but what are the hours of your life worth? I mean, what are you making an hour? It sounds like a bad trade. How you flip it, man.
On that point, I also think it really depends on whether your skill set is improving when you're at work. For example,
yes,
a lot of people gave me advice that said, why don't you go and just become a lawyer for conveyances when a property is exchanged? When you buy or sell a home. It's very easy legal process. You can charge a few thousand, for one home. However, after that, it becomes extremely boring. It's just filling out a paper form, a few documents, registering this, that, a signature. And I didn't want to do that 10 hours a day because I felt, you could do it for 6 months, a year, but then you're going to get bored and you're not really building your skill set. And I think when you have a business, you can kind of free up your mind and focus more on growth and just building yourself overall. Whereas when you're selling your time, you're kind of restricted in the case of a lawyer to, let's say, defending clients in the Los Angeles local court every day. And after a period of time, it becomes the same. But then again, it depends on your appetite for risk, what your skill sets are, things like that.
Absolutely. So when looking at your online business, and if you want to, if you want to type that down, I can put it up on the screen.
How do I type that? Oh, okay, here.
Okay, I can bring it up on the screen like the questions. I noticed you don't accept cryptocurrency.
I'm actually going to be accepting it very shortly. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That will be done shortly. One issue is that a lot of our customers are about 50 and over, and they don't use crypto, a lot of them.
Really?
And, yeah. And second, I've inquired into some crypto kind of merchants where you can actually enter your card in, your Visa card, and then it converts that to crypto, and I receive crypto.
Yeah.
The only issue is that it goes through, if it's over about 1,000 euros, I think it goes through a verification process. And I've seen it's the kind of one where they say, turn on your camera, move your head right to left,
KYC protocols, starting from a certain amount of money, they will demand it.
For that reason, we haven't. But I'd really, if it was a kind of more seamless, fast one, a user-friendly one, where they could enter their card details and decide to pay me in crypto, that would be very cool. But a 5-minute or a 3-minute verification process is kind of annoying for most people.
Yeah. There are some direct crypto. The beauty of cryptocurrency in general is it is permissionless. So, there are ways and methods to do it. Like I've done major, large purchases based over Coinbase as the mediator, where I didn't have to do any sort of verification, because in cryptocurrency, there's basically multiple types of miners. There's GPU miners, which I do a lot of. There's FPGA, and there are ASICs miners, application specific
integrated circuits.
Yeah, integrated circuits, whatever. Yeah, they're ASICs miners, and I bought ASICs miners because they're very expensive, but they also produce a lot of money. It's just like a printing machine, and those machines are very expensive. And so when purchasing through those, using Coinbase as the mediator, I didn't really have to do any of that. verification process stuff. I mean, that is the beauty of cryptocurrency, is that it is permissionless. You can spend it, buy it, use it as you wish. The problem is, I think, is that you're going through a mediary, a middleman that has actually some sort of like regulatory body
Yes.
watching them. And so there are guys, and I can put you in contact with my guy who handles my web stuff. He actually, I think he figured it out how to do direct transactions, permissionless without like an intermediary, because basically you should be able to like just integrate it through APIs and whatnot to your site, to confirm sales and whatnot.
There's one called Blockonomics. They have a plugin. You heard of Blockonomics?
Yeah.
Let me just 1 second. They have a one where it creates, I think, what's it called? You go on the site, it creates like a new wallet ID every time, and then it sends it to them. They get a 1% fee, and it's an American company. Let me just get the block. It's good, but
that's a lot actually. 1% fee.
Yeah, it's a combination of some sort of third-party encryption or a wallet code to which they are going to redirect the funds. 1% is for, on one side, the transaction fees, but on the same time to, deviate a little bit from the regulatory systems. And also,
1% is a bit high, man.
Yeah.
But one issue.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, one issue with a lot of the online merchants is that because our product, because we're dealing with Iran, that falls under sanctions law. So a lot of the financial intermediaries in the US, like Coinbase, you can't be an Iranian and buy off Coinbase. So
the different platforms, because I know certain platforms in the US are forbidden, where you as a US citizen are forbidden to have an account. Coinbase should be possible, but I know, for example, if you're a US citizen and you want to log in into Kraken, they will give you the necessary amount of problems. And in that case, it wouldn't be the first time that I have to redirect people towards Gemini for doing.
This goes back to what I was saying. I mean, if you can just do basically a peer-to-peer plugin, that's it. Everybody's moved out. Then basically it's a wallet-to-wallet transaction. You just need to find a way to like actually do the thing that makes it easy, and why people use Coinbase and whatnot on their websites is because it'll give you it can like integrate into your site to like confirm the sales, and if it's just something that's automatically like, shipped out the next day or whatever else, then all of that transaction is completed. You just get a printed out invoice. All that's, integrated into the system. But if if you're not dealing with like massive volumes of transactions, but you're getting like, a few big transactions, then it's just a matter of like, you've got the order, it comes in, you check, your wallet. If that transaction came through, it's just a matter of, seeing those two things together to where there's like this connection between the block ID and your basically your sales receipt. You see what I'm saying? So like you get sales receipt number 5, it's transaction number 5. Let's say you just started sales number 5 is connected to, block transaction 0x blah 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 blah. Ethereum always starts off with a 0x. So you see what I'm saying? I mean, it's just a matter of figuring that out. And I don't think that's very difficult. It really frees you up from like all that. Now, you do have different questions and different problems in terms of like when the person is actually receiving it and, you're sending them a receipt or whatever else, and they need to prove how they paid. And they show that they paid over, cryptocurrency. That might be a problem for them, but for you, it's less of a problem.
The technology itself might rely on the creation like paper wallets. I'm not a too big fan of paper wallets. The principle remains the same. Paper wallet will use and sometimes reuse some generated addresses from its database. And you are free to type in the amount, and in a certain sense, you can integrate it into your website. The technical details on how to do it, I do not have, but probably the guy that Abuamerican talked about will implement the same principle, and it's some kind of generator which will give you, an address, a random one, related towards the sum that you are wanting to receive in Bitcoin, Ethereum, doesn't matter which one. And you can use that as some sort of receipt. And the addresses itself, once used up, they become invalid and can be repurposed through the random generator.
I mean, yeah, random generators are good. I mean, it's excellent for multiple customers and clients and whatnot. It always points back to your original wallet, and it also prevents a reverse search on your wallet content. Contents. It'll only show the transactions that went over in that particular business. So nobody's looking at you got like a couple 100 million inside your wallet. Nobody will actually know that. They'll only know that someone sent you 10,000 on the last transaction. But it's completely doable. But it's a matter, I guess, for you of the regulatory, side of the game for basically your client. For you, it's not really a problem because it's like if it comes down to a matter of taxing, because you're dealing with the EU, you've been dealing with like mainland Europe, and you've been dealing with like the UK. If they need to see transactions, whatever else, how they happen, you can still prove that. That's still demonstrably provable without them actually like looking into your wallet and seeing the contents and then saying, well, where all this money come from? We want to cut it at too. But right. It is possible. It's doable. And it makes everything, significantly simpler for you. But this allows us to segue into something else, which is, since you're dealing, from a position of like Persia, Iran, we're going to call them Persians. Yeah, since you're dealing with Iran and whatnot, and, it's real, I don't want to call it a problem, but, because it's business. I don't see why business should be a problem, but whatever. Doing business with Iran while from the West is somehow a problem. Have you looked at like unblockable websites? I mean, basically, it's like we've got stuff like the best example, even though it's not a website, is Library. It's basically it is a blockchain based YouTube, for lack of a better term, and I mean it's just it's unblockable. It can't be blocked. It's a beautiful thing.
Down. I understand. Generally doing business with Iran is fine unless you're dealing with a sanctioned good. So the obvious, like a weapon or a missile, something like that. Yeah. Apart from that, it's fine. If you're not using the US dollar, you're totally fine. The only issue is that I think the main issue is that a lot of people are under the mistaken belief that all products from Iran, even if you shake hands from Iran with someone who does business in Iran, you can be sanctioned as well. And sometimes our competitors, unfortunately, in the caviar industry, they spread misinformation that Iranian caviar is sanctioned or it's banned or something like that. But, hey, if you go to all the luxury stores in the world, Harrods or whatever, or in France, they have Iranian caviar. It's not, but the fact that Iran's in the news all the time adds to that fear.
Stigma, for lack of a term.
Stigma, yeah. However, the flip side is that if you're kind of more of a risk taker, there's a lot of opportunity in Iran, and again, you have less competition because there's less focus on it. So, for example, if you're starting a high-end or a new concept restaurant in London or New York City, San Francisco, there's a lot of high-quality restaurants there, a lot of businesses with money, with experience. But if you do it in Iran, even though there's a lot of good food there, there's a lot less competition. So you can maintain like a competitive advantage because you're dealing in an environment or within an environment that other people can't deal with or don't have experience in. So on that point, I want to say that Iran isn't a country where it's not like the US where you can Google anything and find information or how to register this. Okay, step 1, 2, 3. It's not like that. But if you're someone who is kind of more street smart, can use their instincts, a lot of countries like Turkey, Iran, I think Azerbaijan, Russia, where I am now, are really good places to do business, and a lot of people make much more profit than they do in the UK or the US.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure how popular. I mean, because I'm bringing this in because, of course, we're on the show Blockchain Bros, where we talk about cryptocurrency, and so for me, I'm like, having watched you make this journey from like the start before it was actually even a thing. I remember. Yeah. I mean, I've known you before you even talked about it being an idea. Yes. There was, I think at one point there was even a mention of saffron at one point.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Walaikum salam, Yasin, and Abu Future Trunks. So for me, it's like, I think to a degree, maybe not significantly, because I suppose like the caviar industry has like set ways, and we know that some industries they just have their ways and they're not going to change it. But I do think that like somehow cryptocurrency does, and blockchain technology has some solutions for you that would put you ahead of others in terms of giving you an advantage in that market and in that industry. Especially because of the advantages it offers. And I'm really sure that the DeFi space has some sort of solution in it. I'm just not sure what it is. But definitely in terms of like basic transactions, I'm very sure that cryptocurrency can definitely help you.
There's actually one thing I should say on that point. Don't want to butt in there, but
no.
every tin of caviar, every
Mhm.
tin is traced, has its own identification number, which is registered worldwide. So
Yeah.
every country, I think even North Korea follows the CITES convention. So it's very well established. It's not a disputed convention at all.
Yeah.
I think 200 countries are signatories. So for example, if I put in a fish tomorrow in the caviar farm, and let's call the fish, Ali, and then this fish grows after 10, 12 years, and then you kill it, you can get its egg. You then have to inform the authorities in Iran, which then inform the headquarters in Switzerland and everyone in CITES No Access that certain fish, say fish 1, has been killed, and then you have to indicate what tin it's been put into. Tin, let's say 2B, 23. So it's kind of like the blockchain where everything is traced. And in that sense, someone can't, for example, bring cheaper sturgeon fish, caviar, the fish the caviar is from China to Iran, and then put 10 million in a farm in Iran in the ocean, and then export that to gain a higher profit, because everything is traced, and every what can I say? If you repackage it, if you repack the caviar, that is all traced worldwide, and you need legal authority and approval, a permit, to do that. So that's where the blockchain comes in. I recall a while back, a guy I knew in Spain who sold truffles said he also wants to create some kind of traceability for truffles, because truffles, unlike caviar, is not regulated. So there's no, you don't need to register every time a fish is born, or you are farming it, or you kill it. So truffles has that problem where, there's a lot of Chinese truffles in the market that are laundered. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that right there on its own is like
Yeah.
an idea. I mean, when we look at like the blockchain in general, let's go with Ethereum, the Ethereum blockchain, just simply because it's designed to be built on top of. You build a system on top of that blockchain that actually watches the transactions and movements of these fish, of those eggs, of those tins, and it's permanent because it's on the blockchain, and the blockchain is reconfirmed, from all of the nodes and all of the validators on that node, making it basically an open and transparent ledger that tracks all that stuff, and it's unchangeable. I mean, this is it's very solid use. That's a very solid case use for, a direct connection between caviar and blockchain technology on its own.
Well, I'd like to pick in on that because we are used of considering blockchain something unique to finance and cryptocurrency. Now, for people, and I've spoken with a lot of developers, they say, yeah, but I want to build something but crypto related. I always say, well, if you really want to build something, do not look at blockchain for merely transactions. Look at it designated purpose: encryption, data storage.
Yep.
If you're looking at that from that point of view, well, for the caviar industry, where you're in, Cyrus, it can be very interesting because at that point in time, you are going to make a ledger of your inventory. You can say, okay, Genesis block, for example, that day, Monday, 1st of January, 2023, I'm going to pull something out of my ass here. Inventory, that fish stored as a transaction. Next block is the day after. Did something change? No. Block continues, but says 1 day old, etc., etc. And if the sturgeons are being ripe and the caviar is being gathered, you can put it as a new transaction in the blockchain. And with that, you've got an entire distributed ledger of your entire inventory and the entire evolution. You can even attach and say, well, look, this block here, this reference, that's the number of the can. It's related towards that block. I can see immediately it's from that sturgeon. That sturgeon, when was it born? Looking further back, I see the reference. Okay, it refers back to that block. You've got an entire timeline of your inventory, which is quite easy to look up. So yeah, blockchain technology on that aspect is quite handy, and you can integrate it with your sales if needed to.
Very easily.
That I would say that's a very interesting idea. And on the flip side, not only is it good for people who are in the industry, but consumers, because a lot of, especially if you're buying a high-end food or product, you want to know where it's from, where was it made, where was it assembled. There's so much kind of terminology they use, like assembled or packaged or processed. You want to know, okay, is the shrimp I'm eating, was it grown in Norway or whatever, or did it come from somewhere that kind of been polluted, and then was it just packaged or processed in Norway? And that's what I've seen in food. A lot of, for example, I've seen truffles. Spain is a very big truffles producer, but those truffles, because of the free movement of goods, go to France, and then a French truffles company just puts their brand on it, and then the price goes up 4 times higher, and the consumer has no idea that those truffles are actually grown in Spain. So blockchain could be very useful if you could scan something like that, like the QR code, and then it tells you. Yeah.
Cover next.
Yeah. The CITES, mind you, I mean, I'm changing topics a lot, but that CITES code, the convention, on the back of every caviar tin, it's got a label which indicates the species, the country of origin, the processing center, the tin number, but that looks too confusing for the average person. I understand because I'm in the business, but most people don't. It just looks like a bunch of numbers and code. Most people don't understand that. But what we're trying to do on our website, my friend had an idea to put something scannable where people could write that code and enter in the initials like IR. It has the country code all the time, like UK would be GB, Great Britain, to know where their caviar is coming from. But I've seen this problem throughout the whole seafood industry where sometimes it's just so hard to find out where your food, where your salmon or where your fish is coming from. And because of all the farmed fishing nowadays, a lot of stuff just isn't wild anymore. You kind of want to be eating good quality product, because who knows, in 20, 30 years down the track, this stuff causes cancer and all sorts of problems,
Well, and this is something that a lot of people don't know about, like blockchain technology. They just think about like how they can make money off of it. Do I hold? Do I trade? This, that, and the other. But what a lot of people don't know is that the Genesis block of BTC, of Bitcoin, actually held a message. And what you can do is you can transfer information over the blockchain with every individual block. So when you have a QR code that has all that information, I just showed my QR code. That's my receive wallet for anybody who wants to send me some BTC. But anyway, I can't pull it back up because now my phone wants to malfunction and act stupid. But basically, the point is, we know that information can be put into QR codes. Vast amounts of information can be put in there. So we're talking about like, fish, birth, country, this, that, the other, whoever, the manufacturer, fish's birthday, nickname, all that stuff can be put into a QR code. You can then, of course, using hardware, scan that QR code and turn it into an actual block on a transaction on a blockchain, which then puts that information on the blockchain as it is, just like we saw in the Genesis block of Bitcoin. And that information will be in there. And again, it'll be verified. It cannot be changed. It's verified by multiple nodes, multiple miners, or verifiers, for lack of a better term. And that information becomes permanent. And so with that QR code that's on the back of every can, that you could put on an actual paper, you can print it out on a paper and it's on file. Someone can scan it and look that up on the blockchain also. It's just a matter of developing the technology. And that right there, look at this, guys. I'm giving away business ideas right here. This is a business idea. Y'all better be fast with me on this one, because I'm going to make a move on it. Exactly. My wife says it right here, right there. A caviar token. But this is something that transcends caviar. You could do this across like you said, people
know.
don't know where their food comes from.
It's a very good business idea.
It's an excellent business idea. Nigga, I'm taking a loan today. Tomorrow, it's Sunday. I'm making it happen. And you can trace where your food comes from, where it goes from, and it's really fast because it's the blockchain. Because you got you got like the Ethereum scanner or whatnot. Like, if you can go and if you have your block address from a transaction, you can look up the entire chain, who verified it, whatever else, all that stuff, where it went to, the information encoded with that block. It's a freaking excellent idea, man. It could put you ahead of the game. It could put you ahead. Not only are you in the caviar game, you're like in the business of actually updating the game and making it more transparent. Because again, we know that the blockchain is all about transparency. Some people don't like that. People don't like that ability for everything to be looked up. But in other cases, like this one, it's very important. So we had a question here I just want to cover real quick. Since we're on the topic of cryptocurrency in general, although it's off topic of what we're talking about here. The Indian government is trying to ban all crypto. Supreme Court is not let it happen. I don't know what that means, not let it happen. That's only lifeline. Look, you can try and ban crypto all you want. We've seen what's happened. Yeah.
It's move on towards DeFi, so no, you can't stop it.
It's unstoppable technology.
It's also one of the reasons why DeFi is growing at a tremendous rate, because actually the news you have here is Indian government is trying to ban all crypto, with Supreme Court trying to not let it happen. Slightly outdated news. It did occur, and they did accept the agreement, and all investors in India holding cryptocurrency have been given a 6 month delay to sell off all their cryptocurrency. And I believe in last week's episode of Blockchain Bros, or the week before, I also mentioned to these guys, hot tip, move to DeFi. They cannot trace you, they cannot hold you. It's also one of the reasons why things like Uniswap, Polkadot, etc. are making tremendous movements, because all those guys are simply moving from Coinbase and other exchanges towards DeFi.
Yeah, and that's the thing. All that it's going to do is it's just going to drive the cryptocurrency usage in India underground. Here's the thing. How are you going to ban cryptocurrency? You're basically saying ban the internet. If they have access to the internet, there's going to be a way to have access to cryptocurrency, peer-to-peer transactions, as more and more people come up to speed. And as far as I know, in general, it would seem to me that Indians are very technologically, they have an aptitude for it. That's why all the programming, data centers, and all that stuff is all over there in India. I worked in a tech job in London, and I lost my job to a bunch of Indians. So they're not stupid people. So obviously, they're going to figure out peer-to-peer transactions. There's no way you're going to be able to ban it. I mean, you might be able to make it illegal and then use that as a club and a stick to beat someone over the head who's actually using it if you catch them. But to actually ban it, come on, bro. This is like the regulation of guns. All you're gonna do is put one group of people at a disadvantage over other people, and those people who have access to cryptocurrency easily and legally are gonna have advantage over the people who don't. Just like if you make guns legal and easy for law-abiding citizens, easy to have, you're going to put them at an equal footing or a better advantage than those people who are not. And when it comes down to criminals who always have guns, it's just like reversed. You see what I mean? So we want legal, proper use of cryptocurrency technology, blockchain technology, just in the same way we want legal, proper use of weapons. We don't want the bad guys to have the only ones being accessible to it. People who are not afraid of being punished by the law. We want this accessible to all. So I don't think it's going to work. That's my humble opinion on that. Anybody want to throw anything on that?
No, you're 100% correct there. The worst moves governments and banks can do is try to implement a ban, because people will know workarounds. And well, it's like a bit the issue. I know you've got crossbows. Myself, I also got, legal arms here in Belgium. And firearms are forbidden in the entirety of Belgium. I do not have one, but I am armed, and not with swords. I've got bow and arrow, and a crossbow is still considered legal here in Belgium, and I wouldn't hesitate. I'm trying to buy a new one. I wouldn't hesitate to use it if life's in danger. And I know there's a lot of people who say, yeah, but weapons, etc., watch out. No. It's not because the bad guy, because there are regulations being implemented to protect the citizens, that the bad guys won't get their hands on it. That's the entire deal. It's not because it's banned, that people won't get involved with it. And I'm of the opinion, well, better to have your own back than to rely on some greater invisible authority, being the governments, trying to bail you out, because when push comes to shove, they won't be there unless it directly affects them. So have your own back and try to
The
get in
police,
and
yeah,
do grounds.
police are minutes away when seconds count. So anyway, Colin says, my brother keeps recommending me buy Bitcoin, but I'd rather save and buy a full share of Ethereum. Any thoughts? Stack sats, bro. Stack sats.
And before you follow up with a question, what's sats? That's parts of Bitcoin. So follow the advice of your brother.
$50 worth of Bitcoin. You could buy $50 worth of Bitcoin. You ain't got to go out and just, that's it. Gobble up them Satoshis. That's it right there. Stack them sats, man. Yeah, stack sats, man. Just don't do nothing. Don't just like sit back and watch. Oh, it's too late. Remember, dude. And I will give. And sorry, we have our guest here, but let me just go on a rant here because you guys come here for the crypto stuff, and we were just giving him some solutions and maybe some possible ideas to work on, integrate blockchain technology into his business. But let me just tell you guys, Andrew Tate was right. He was like, y'all slept. A lot of people slept. People were saying, oh, it's too late to get in when it's at 10,000. It's too late to get in when it's 18,000. Oh, it's too late to get in when it's at 20,000. Oh, it's too late to get in. It's 30,000. Here we are sitting in the mid-range 40s. And you know what you're going to be saying next year? Oh, it's too late to get in at 40,000. I'm going to be saying this when it's at 100,000. Buy and stack them sats, homie.
Yeah, even today I had with a little chat with some of my friends. They want to get involved in mining, help them out naturally. But one of the guys said, well, it's quite expensive, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, but you can easily step in for lower prices. I mean, 20 euros, it's peanuts. You can do it. Now, I did also advise, well, if you're going to invest in it, immediately start stacking in baremas of 50 or 100 euros. If you are going to do something, make it count. And just like what Abuamerican said about Andrew Tate and people complaining, well, at 20K, at 30K, etc. Believe me, I made an additional investment when it fell down in March 2020, almost a year ago, when the market imploded, I'm going to say, due to Corona. I bought in at 3K and I was like, yeah, sure, here it is. And even at that point, people were still complaining, yeah, but to own it, it's quite expensive. I was like, dudes, this is the biggest opportunity. Don't be a shithead. Come on.
Yep.
And now we're at, well, around 50K, probably less at the moment because the market's bleeding a little bit. But even if it hits 100K, or even in worst case scenario, if it falls back to 20K, those are opportunities. You don't have to let it go to waste. You do not need to look at value alone.
Yeah.
Look at the added value it brings to your life. Decentralization, certain amount of freedom, and that's the thing you should focus on, not on it's expensive. Because
Indeed. So let me get back to Cyrus here. Cyrus, man, I got something maybe we should talk about on the WhatsApp side of the game in terms of business, man. Because I mean,
Sure.
When I was looking at this right here and just thinking about this, when we were talking about the traceability, I mean, I actually know, a blockchain programmer who could actually like make this a reality. We were just talking about a project for Abuamerican. I don't, you run an Abuamerican coin. That's just the only reason why I didn't do it is because I don't know what the heck I'd do with this. Like, what am I going to be actually transacting? So, I mean, this is actually something that maybe we should discuss.
you can be
corrections happen
Sure.
every week.
No.
Sounds good.
Corrections do not happen every week. They are more on irregular intervals. At this point in time, corrections tend to occur more on a monthly basis due to corporate involvement. Reason thereof, many companies, investment firms at the end of the month will start closing their books, make up their things, and will sell off part of their assets, which implies, I still believe it's a theory, so don't shoot me if I'm wrong, but I think now more or less on a monthly basis somewhere corrections will occur before the run restarts. And one of my predictions also is starting from next week, because we will be the beginning of a new month, we'll probably see a bull run continuation.
Yeah. I mean, you got to remember, dude, it's like massive bears lead to what we have now, massive bulls. Massive bulls lead to massive corrections. You know, you don't see massive movements like this happening without like massive corrections, dude. I mean, we've seen since what was it, like November, September-ish? I mean, it's just been like insane, the growth. No, actually, it's more like December. You know, it was like late November, December. I mean, the movements at the end of December have just been nuts. So that, you know, we're seeing like right now, a correction of a few thousand at that on Bitcoin. I mean, and I mean, look at Ethereum. Ethereum's correction's been minuscule compared to where it came from. When I started mining Ethereum, it was at $300. I was mining at $300. Where is it now? It's holding steady at like the 1300s, I think, for today. Like, you know, but I mean, it hasn't dipped below 1,000. It hasn't even come close to dipping below 1,000 like for some time now. It's at 1,300. So it's been holding around like the lower 1,000 to, you know, mid thousands range in terms of 1,300, 1,500. Dude, for me, a correction, yeah, I'll take that correction any day, homie. You know, yeah. We got another question here. What's more valuable towards a focus?
Yeah, to focus on USD or crypto. Yeah.
What kind of questions you asking here, bro? Collins, bro. Come on, man. Crypto. What do you think Biden's about to do to your dollars, bro? He about to print your dollars into toilet paper. Okay. I got some dollars today. I got paid out. You know, Gumroad paid me, this paid me, that paid me, and you know, I did straight into like I went into stable coins. I actually bought some stable coins today. You know what I'm saying? So, dude, just do something with it. Don't keep it in dollars because dollars is.
My earnings are straight into crypto, or I've got also investments in gold, and I do private loans also through third-party platform.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, quite a good pay. It's sort of my how many savings accounts do I have? I think 4 right now. Yeah, something interesting. But I know when it concerns Islam, the private loans things is not entirely clear.
Yeah, Islamically, it's a problem for us. I mean, Islamically, you know, for me as a Muslim, it's not, you know, it's not doable. But if it was, you know, I'd definitely do it. But like, you know, Muslims can look into NFTs, non-fungible tokens, you know, these types of things, you know.
Yeah, doing business a little bit the Islamic way. Well, it gave me the biggest earnings to date, with the exception of the private loans I do naturally. But I tend to follow a little bit those advices. Thanks to Telegram channel of Abuamerican here.
Okay, Colin, you say, but what about when crypto isn't federally backed? I mean, that's the entire point. That it's decentralized currency. That, you know, it's decentralized. I mean, what has? Tell me what the U.S. Federal Reserve has done in favor of the decisions of the United States for quite some time, other than print more money. I mean,
yeah. Perhaps we should mention there are still a lot of people who believe that fiat currency, so the US dollar, euros, etc., are being backed by gold, silver. Since the 70s, it isn't the case anymore. It's being entirely backed by the user case, so by supply and demand, which is regulated through the government. So they can actually pull money straight out of their asses. With the US dollar, it's more direct, I'm going to say, by reason it's reliant on debt towards other countries, of which China is also one of the debtors. How do I know this? By, well, investigating certain charts where I compare the euro versus the US dollar, well, value of the US dollar and other currencies. And all those who are in a downtrend, well, tend to be the US dollar, and all those other currencies which are, well, slightly backed by the debt of the US dollar, implying the yen, for example, is also going down. The euro is slightly different because there the value has been, I know how to explain it in Dutch, but I'm going to try to translate it in English, so bear with me. It is backed by the economic well-being of the country and the set price of their old currency. For example, here in Belgium, €1 forever will equal 40.20 approximately. That's being steadfast. For other countries, same advice. So in the Netherlands, it's the gulden. Steadfast, that's the level. €1 equals forever that amount of gulden. Now, the problem is, where did the traditional currencies derive their value from? And there they made an entire mechanism which relates back to the entire economic well-being of Europe from all countries involved. So the problem we're facing here is like countries like Greece, Italy, with liquidity problems, with great amount of debts, dragging down the value of the euro. So it will not go down as hard as the US dollar. There's a certain buffer, but that's due to because other richer countries which are doing better actually paying up the debt of those other countries. That's also a problematic system which crypto can solve, because that's entirely reliant on, well, supply and demand.
Yeah, I mean, and you say here, Collins, you say regulate interest rates. There's a statement that's attributed to a Rothschild, and he said something to the effect of, give me power over a nation's money, and I care not who makes its laws. Centralized authority in terms of finances gives them significant power over you as an individual, and you lack freedom. I mean, we already know that in China, they use social credit to actually like debit people out of their bank accounts. I mean, it's insane the amount of power that a central authority over your income gives them. Why would you want that? And we see now with this crypto bull run, and now that, DeFi is turning into a thing, and that it's being widely adopted by, several financial institutions, mainstream financial institutions, that in terms of a stability, that is attainable. I mean, we do now have a new baseline for cryptocurrency that has risen, so these, and we talked about this, that these crashes of 2017 and all this stuff, it's not going to happen in the same way because it's not the same market. So what you're talking about is a depreciating asset is like, well, I'd prefer to have a regulatory authority that's going to print my money into a depreciating asset instead of one that appreciates with case use. Yeah, I mean, do you see how insane that sounds? What's preferable? I'd rather have a case use. And this is why when I actually like invest in a coin, I understand what the coin does. Can you make more money just trading and flipping crap coins? Yeah, absolutely. You can make a lot of money on doing it. But me, I just don't have time to chase that up. So I invest in coins that I understand how they function and what they do. And then what happens? People back that, people use it. And then when its use increases and trust in it increases, what happens? The value increases. You make more money.
Yeah, there's also an additional aspect of cryptocurrency. I don't know if I should tell it here because it might sound a little bit immoral to some. But, well, for example, if you're on debt regulation, whereby governments and banks say, well, look, you've got a very big outstanding amount of debt, we will withdraw it immediately from, well, your paycheck, which can happen. Or if you have, and here comes the immoral part, child support, for example, that you are forced through the banking system that they immediately pull out a certain amount of money, you can actually evade that part by saying, well, I want to be paid out in crypto. Whereas on crypto, banks have no influence. The central governments have no influence. If you're being paid out in cryptocurrency, well, you don't have to pay child support. Why? Because governments and banks will only check up on your fiat currency paycheck, and they will base the percentages off of it. So if you say I'm going to be paid in cryptocurrency now, they do not have something to stand on because that's, well, entirely off charts, out of their reach. And at that point you can say, well, fuck it, because, for example, the child wasn't mine. The wife tried to fuck me over. Now it's my turn to fuck her over and say, I'm not paying anything because I don't officially have anything. That's a bit the, well, immoral part I'm going to say, because I know there are a lot of situations out there where it's unwarranted for, or just bad dads trying to get out of it, but just see it as an option for those few guys who are in a shitty situation and say, well, I don't want to pay the support for something I didn't do and I was forced into. That's a way out.
Yeah. Last question before we go offline here, guys. An hour and 10 minutes. Red Stealth says, in a previous episode, you said you use a debit card tied to your crypto. What are those cards you use, gentlemen? I'm trying to go almost all in, but I got bills to pay. Crypto.com and Wirex. Wirex has a waiting list. I'm on the waiting list, but they said my card shipped. Wirex and Crypto.com. You can actually deposit cryptocurrency. Like in my case, it's Ethereum, and you can take it out as fiat currency. So when it comes down to paying I overshoot my electrical costs because my electrical costs are quite high, but they're not even close to what I'm making in terms of profits. But I just pay that out of my actual mining. Or if I want to get some new hardware, I'll load up some Ethereum from my wallet onto that card, and I can just order online like a regular credit card. So Crypto.com works well. Wirex, I'll let you guys know when I test it, but I am going to do some videos and some reviews on Crypto.com card, how easy it is to use and whatnot, and these types of things.
Yeah, I'm mostly known with the Crypto.com. Wirex, I heard about it, but I know there was some...
They got a hella waiting list.
Yeah, the waiting list being quite long.
Ridiculous, dude. Yeah.
People waiting for several weeks when they made it.
Months.
Already.
Over 6 months for people. Yeah. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. Cyrus, you want to add anything? You want to throw something in there? I put up your website. Let me see if I can find it again. Throw it up here again. Oh, actually, I got it in the background in the private chat side of the game, so I just copy this again. You guys looking for some high quality caviar?
I would say that nowadays online, I hear everyone wanting to operate on someone's platform. People want to make money on Instagram, on YouTube, or something like that, or Gumroad. I'm actually against that because I think building an audience is quite difficult, right?
Yeah.
And when you, for example, have content on Gumroad, they already give you an audience to an extent, or a way of kind of conveying your content. But I think when you own that platform yourself, number one, you don't have to share money with anyone else. Second, you're going to learn a skill set that you can keep for the rest of your life. So if you know how to do SEO, the digital marketing, the programming, or you have programmers, you own that turf. It's not a turf that, for example, YouTube one day can say, "Oh, we don't like your channel, we're taking you off." Or second, a lot of people don't, in terms of searching behavior, they don't come to YouTube or Instagram to look for something. They actually go to Google and they look for something. So if you have a website which ranks highly a business, and you're exposed everywhere in Google searches, that's kind of yours to keep. That if you kind of get what I'm getting, kind of it's more conceptual as opposed to concrete. But I'm against putting too much money or time into platforms where rules can change, because I know a lot of people did Amazon affiliates years ago and they were making money, but then Amazon kept slashing the affiliate payouts, and it basically rendered the whole affiliate industry kind of pointless. Things like that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's one of those golden rules I tend to use with cryptocurrency. Ownership trumps all. Period.
Yes.
And that's the beautiful thing. And actually, I know we said we want to close out, but let me just say that when we look at blockchain and the technology and how it lasts and how it functions, I mean, what we're talking about in a sense is like NFT, non-fungible token. I mean, you own that actual item. I mean, it is yours. Nobody could take it from you until you transfer it to somebody else. And that's the beautiful thing about it. And it's not cancelable in any sort of way. So, I mean, this is just blockchain technology answers all those problems.
And if I can,
it belongs to you.
If I can add one more thing, if you can focus on a business where you can really build a brand, because what I've seen is that when you build brand, or in my case, when you have some media mention, some features in newspapers, the payoff, the benefit is just amazing, because people trust you immediately. You stay in people's mind. They talk about your business to someone else. It organically brings in business. So you're not hustling every single day. Like when you advertise, you got to pay. And the moment you stop advertising, you kind of stop making money. But when you have a brand, it kind of organically builds upon itself, and you can keep that forever. And they can't just, cancel you because you've got that strength, that muscle. And I don't think you learn that all the time when you're kind of focusing too much on YouTube or someone else's platform, because ultimately that guy who owns the platform makes a lot of money.
Yeah, that's disadvantages of building on a third-party platform. But yeah.
Indeed. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. This has been episode 10 of Blockchain Bros. If you have any sort of ideas, business, whatever else, and we can help you guys figure out how you can possibly integrate blockchain technology into your business, hit me up. I'm not sure if the live chat is or the contact me is live on my website now. I keep my Twitter conversations off. I don't let anybody message me anymore. Freaking weirdos. Let me talk to my man, my IT man about that. If it's not live, then we'll try to get it live. Hit me up on just the open session somewhere on whatchamacallit when I start talking about EIP 1559 and start ranting at Ethereum devs. Hit me up and say, hey, I got an idea, and I'll send you a message. We talk. Gracious, you got anything?
Not really. Just for those interested, next Wednesday. For a crypto bull, next project I will be live analyzing will be called Ocean Protocol. Heard good things about it, so for people who are interested, tune in at 12 Brussels time. That's it.
Okay. All right, guys, we're out.
All right, thank you.